Probably one of the biggest things that we looked out for was the recovery system. The recovery system is always the part that's the most nerve-wracking. Propulsion is obviously very scary, but there's not a whole lot we can do with that. We build the motor how we're able to and then launch it. Aero, we have a very good idea from our open rocket on how it's going to perform stability-wise and stuff like that. Avionics will work out one way or another. Payload this Subscale launch was just a JBL speaker, so not much to go wrong there. But recovery is the one that if something doesn't go right there, then the rocket's coming down ballistic. So there's a lot of risks associated with first-time launches and recovery.
So for our Subscale launch, once it's our turn to go through our checklist, the recovery team basically assembles the entire recovery system of the rocket. And so we start by connecting every one of our shock cords and connections and parachutes, installing our parachutes and packing each of them into their bags, as well as installing our black powder charges, and then fully screwing the rocket together with our shear pins.
So we are mainly responsible for manufacturing the external parts of the rocket, and currently we're also responsible for some of the structural part that's inside the rocket, like the big ones. The biggest goal that we have is like house the payload, make sure every component fits in and got the right space they need, as well as the biggest thing is the apogee. We want to hit exactly the apogee we predicted in different circumstances. And that's what our aerodynamics team do with the Subscale.
Like manufacturing and a lot of our work that is done beforehand, where we kind of just are there helping out for other teams' checklists. But it's up to them to decide what tasks they have to do, what tools they need. It's kind of just on us to make sure that they have what they need.
So for Subscale launches, the avionics team basically does a full run of all of our systems that we have ready up until that point. So that looks like our recovery system, so all the things that go into blowing the charges for the recovery system to deploy, making sure that all of those systems are working properly, doing the things that they're supposed to. We also do our first testing of a live demonstration of our ground station, and we also run our nose cone avionics, which includes like our GPS systems and those sorts of things that get all that real-time data to send to the ground station. So that includes all of our like custom circuit boards and things that we've been designing throughout the semester, as well as getting our first video feed. So that's what our first Subscale launch testing looks like. It's just kind of putting all those systems to a test and seeing whether or not they work on the field, because they can work a million times here, but that doesn't mean that they will work when we're actually in the middle of nowhere and getting all that signal back and forth.
For test launches, project management handles all of the logistics and a lot of the planning and organizing around, the sub-team leads and stuff. So we've handled travel, just like coordinating drivers, and for this full scale we'll coordinate, getting OU vans, making sure our approved drivers are, have their approval up to date so they can actually drive everyone down. Coordinating with the test launch site, giving them our simulations and stuff so that they know that we have a solid rocket, it's not going to explode on the launch pad. Coordinating with them, make sure they have the time to fit us in that day. In terms of like preparation the day before, we have a packing day. All of the sub-team leads will come in and we'll set everything aside that we are bringing to competition. We will lock the door off so that we're only assembling the rocket with the stuff we've brought in that room, just to make sure that we have planned accordingly. And we have checklists that project management made, just ensure that everyone in the full assembly, everyone's getting everything in order, and that certain sub-teams can start after certain steps in other sub-teams assembly, just so we're working as efficient as possible.
Yeah, during the countdown, I was feeling pretty good. I was definitely excited. But again, the recovery system was always on my mind. So the biggest thing I was waiting for was not the countdown, but more so looking at when it was arcing. And I was like, please, Lord, please, I hope that chute goes.
It was very nervous thing because this is my first one as a team lead, and we messed up a little bit on the mass calculation earlier on. Basically, I input the wrong number, so that kind of offset my mood of being like, oh, I'm in charge of everything. But once I got used to the pad, I realized, oh, I input the wrong mass number. So that made me lost control of, like mentally feel like I lost control of everything, but it actually turned out really well because just changing the mass number is such an easy thing. Everything else major with the rocket was all like determined, so yeah, it was a successful flight.
I was feeling pretty nervous because a lot of the work we put in on manufacturing is just kind of like ahead of time and putting the rocket together before it's actually launched. It was kind of nerve-wracking, like what if we maybe put this part in too wrong, or this part wasn't smoothed out enough, or maybe this connection wasn't as strong as we thought it would be. But that's stuff like you only find out when we actually launch the rocket. So it's a little nerve-wracking to go, okay, what's going to happen? What are these teams making sure it needs to get done? Is there any steps that we're not following through on, or we need to hop in and correct? But I trust these guys, and I knew they were gonna do a great job. Seeing it go off was just so much fun. So it was good to see all that work pay off.
Were there any unexpected things that went up during that test launch?
Yeah, there were a few unexpected things. We had some issues with connection to our altimeters and stuff like that, and our ground station that we have. So there was a couple of things there that kind of gave us a little bit of delay.
In terms of the recovery system, our altimeters were configured properly, but the user interface for the Blue Raven altimeter that we're using, we've never used this altimeter before. You pull it out of the box, you download the app, and then you kind of just have to figure it out. We hadn't looked enough into how the parameters actually work. We put all of our info in, but we didn't realize that some stuff that we didn't want active was active, and the things that we did want weren't. And so we ended up having the Blue Raven deploying at Apogee for main for the parachute. So the main parachute deployed at Apogee, which is not ideal when you're launching a rocket, because it's better to have the parachute launch than not, but now you have to walk twice as far as you would have if it hadn't. We hoped it would just work the first time, because that's typically what you want from your recovery system. It's kind of one of those things that's one and done, but now that we have that Subscale launch under our belt, we figured out how the app actually works. We looked into it a little bit more, and so now we're able to use the Blue Raven effectively the way that we want to.
In terms of the full-scale launch, we are very, very excited. Like I was saying, then we felt very good about Subscale. The only issue was that Blue Raven altimeter. So now that we've got that problem sorted out, then things should be looking very smooth. We're excited to test the full payload, the laser engraver, which is going to be very, very exciting. It'll be really interesting. So we're hoping to engrave metal inside the rocket while it's flying. So we'll have plenty of time to do that from the launch to the recovery. So we're hoping to get a full, some sort of symbol that will be revealed later. We'll get that on there. So we're excited to test payload fully and then test all the avionics stuff. Avionics wasn't able to get all their stuff done because they have a ton of stuff to do. So the Subscale was more of a test of their main critical systems, so that went well. But yeah, full scale is going to be a great test of those. And then also, we just want to be able to see what recovery is able to do with just getting everything fully locked down, so that for future years, and we're able to just cruise along with recovery and not have to have that thought in the back of our minds while we're launching that something's going to go wrong.
The results of this Subscale was truly done to validate all of our simulations, all of the testing that we've done for recovery, especially to see it finally happen in the sky rather than on the ground. Yeah, so it validates that in the way that we can finally take it up to the apogee that it's meant to go, 10,000 feet.
We feel pretty confident about our recovery system nowadays, but next year should be even more of a confidence build.
How did you feel during countdown?
It felt pretty cool. Just getting to see everyone like in their element, working, putting together all this stuff they've been working so hard for. And again, I wasn't really, I wasn't involved on the technical side, so I was just getting to sit back. I was working on my own L1 rocket, but getting to sit back and watch everyone else go to work, it was really cool. And then actually seeing them loaded up on the launch pad, seeing it shoot up, was pretty dang cool, dude.
How does the being the closest we've ever been to predicted apogee, what does that mean for you?
What does it mean? I mean, I was the one last minute running some of those calculations on what's our predicted apogee. That was a lot of fun to be able to get my hands involved with that and working with Leo on, okay, what are we actually aiming for? And then to hear from Price, like, what we actually hit for our apogee. Yeah, getting so close, it's just, it feels really good. It gives me a lot more confidence on this full scale launch. I mean, each year we keep getting better and better and better. So it's just nice to see like we're getting closer and closer to what we say we're gonna hit.
So last year we also used Orchestral rocket, but in the end we kind of just overwritten everything with the mass that we measured basically the night before launch when we did the mock assembly. But this year I was hoping to be more accurate, because we realized the fin was off, so that scared me a lot. And I want to make sure this year's rocket, everything we have is pinpoint exact, so precision matters a lot for rocketry purpose. And so yeah, like throughout this entire semester, even last semester, we were just constantly updating the mass, updating the dimension of each rocket parts to make sure what we have in Open Rocket is as close as we can get to the real one. And in the end, it turned out to be only 100 gram off from what simulation told us and what the actual rocket assembled out to be. And I think that is a really good sign. That means our hard work paid off, and we are basically simulating what we actually have.
Knowing the team, knowing the team's like, passion and heart and all that they do, like, how do you feel like they did for this test launch?
Sometimes I'll have late nights here, where I'm leaving, meetings are supposed to end at 9 and I'm leaving at like 10:30 or something. There's always someone staying later than me. Dude, when we were packing, I stayed like an hour and a half later to do the lettering. But then I walked back in, we were in like the garage bay or whatever, walked back into our main area, and there's Leo and Andy doing the Open Rocket. So like, everyone just put in a ton of time and effort, and yeah, I'm super, super proud of the team that, everyone, and so many people got to come out and see the rocket launch and see, all their personal effort go into this system. So really proud of everyone.